Assalamualaikum sir and everyone. We are from group 8AM2255A presenting the case study on topic of Apple supplier and labor practice. My group consists of 3 members. Our case study is regarding the issue of Apple supplier and labor practice. My name is Fatin Amira binti Muhammad Saufi. We has discussed the summary of the case where we will explain in details on regards of the issue that been arise. Based on the case study, there are a few issues we focus on which are child labor, unsafe working condition and illegal mining. There were 106 cases of underage labor being used at Apple Supplier, including 70 cases recently that was uncovered. Apple has the highest standard of ethical conduct. The Apple supplier act in ethical way in every aspect, such as relationship, practice, supplier, and operation. Apple supplier use child labor at the factories that build the computer, iPad, iPhone, and their iPod. This is because they have to fulfill the demand, but they have problem on the issue of shortage workers in the production line. Therefore, Apple supplier allowed the child labor. In China, 15 years old children were discovered to be working in Apple supplier factories in its goods assembly. The children that employed in Apple supplier were recruited using the false identity paper. Apple did not disclose the age of the children involved, but its code of ethics mentioned that they have to be transparent. The Code of Ethics stated it will not employ workers under the age of 15 or under the legal working age in any jurisdiction, which is in China 16 years old children. Next, moving on to the next point. It is the working environment which is unsafe working condition in Apple supplier. We figured out that Apple supplier failed to protect Chinese factory workers. There was a case when iPhone 6 were produced. Apple broke their promises to protect the workers in the production line as their routine. For instance, the workers need to work 18 days in a row despite repeated requests for a day off in factories of making part for Apple computers. Not only that, Apple supplier chain of Indonesia faced dangerous condition of working. It found that children were exposed to dangerous working condition, where the children digging tin ore out of their own hand in extremely dangerous condition, which miners can also burn alive when the wall of sand or mud collapse. Last issue is about the illegal mining that Apple supplier practice. This is one of the unethical labor practice by Apple supplier. Apple supplier have illegal man-made island in Indonesia consists of dozens of boat lashed together that rake up the muddy in tin ore from the seabed. The first question is, do you think Apple should be responsible for ethical labs made by individual further down its supply chain? Why or why not? Yes, Apple should be responsible for ethical labs made by individual further down its supply chain. It is because Apple hired the employee, thus all the employees of Apple is under their responsibility. Generally, employer will liable if any of the employees was doing their job, because the employees consider acting on the employer's behalf when any incident such as misconduct or careless took place. Therefore, the employer will be liable. Apple agreed to take the responsibility of the employer's action that could reflect them either positively or negatively. For example, if the employee involved in any injury during working hour, the employer will have to bear the responsibility. We agree in order to avoid legal and ethical mistakes that could damage the organization, Apple supplier must assess their ethical risk. Apple supplier also develop value and compliance system and ensure the program to meet the guideline where they will identify the acceptable behavior in their culture. The ethical theory that can be related to this issue is utilitarianism. It is considered as satisfaction. How the satisfaction can be developed is where the relationship between the employee and employer will maintain. Therefore, the satisfaction between two parties will be developed. The basic moral principle of utility is the usefulness which brings out the happiness. An act is right moral if the act is useful in bringing about a desirable or good end. There are two circumstances of utilitarianism, which are rule and act. Rule stated that to consider the consequences of the act performed as a general practice, meanwhile for the act stated that to consider the consequences of each act separately. As we discussed, Google is one of the evidence or a best example. It is the best known company where they maintain the relationship between the employers and employees. It is crucial to break down the barrier because it will encourage the employee to develop more creative mindset. Next question that we discuss is, should Apple continue to work with the supplier in effort to change practice, or should they stop working with every supplier, even the constituents want to make sure no bad apples are getting through? Yes, Apple should continue to work with the supplier in effort to change the practice because it is one of the most crucial joint party in the business organization. Why it is considered crucial to the Apple supplier? Because Apple had to fulfill the demand. In 2014, during the holiday session, 74.5 million iPhones were sold. Therefore, this is the evidence where Apple have to maintain the relationship with the supplier. In addition, Apple does not only produce their goods domestically, same goes with other countries. Most of the component sourcing and factory production is done overseas, in condition that critics has argued are dangerous to workers and harmful to the environment. Ethics that can be relayed in this issue is compliance strategy. Compliance strategy consider compliant orientation, which is one of the type of the control system. This compliant orientation use the legal terms statute and contract. This will teach the employees the rules and penalty for non-compliance. The goals of compliance strategy is to get the employees to report wrongdoing when they become aware, because from the feedback we can improve better in future. The compliance strategy consists of three components, which are code, monitoring, and disciplining. These three elements is very important in order to develop compliance strategy in the organization. The code of ethics composed of rules which the employee and employer have to obey with the rules. Second, monitoring activity design to be second component or element that very crucial to the compliance strategy is monitoring activity. This is designed to ensure the employers and the employees obey with the rules that been set up in the organization. Lastly, disciplinary misconduct, which the effective way is punishment, because punishment will make people regret to do the same mistake over and over again. We had discussed the recommendation that can be suggested to ensure there is no bad apple. Firstly, introduce a policy. By introducing a policy, we'll enforce a strict code of conduct where the ethical can be clearly state the definition, the punishment, or any consequences. The punishment for any employee misconduct will make people regret to do the same mistake. Employer of Apple supplier need to revisit this code of ethics from time to time to accommodate new trends and changes in national practice. Therefore, any improvement can be made. Second, we can suggest to provide resources and education. Resources and education is very important for employee, especially to recruit a new employee. Employers of Apple supplier must provide educational opportunity for all the employees in order to successfully implement the policy change. Managers should set up a confidential system for reporting ethical violation. Therefore, will be improved in the system.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to you, sir. My name is Amira binti Ibrahim from AM2255A. I will present question 3 and 4 in this case study. Question 3 asks us, do you think consumers should be expected to take into account the ethical track records of companies when making purchases? Why or why not? We will look into ethics section first. What is corporate ethics? Corporate ethics is defined as a study of business situation, activities, and decision-making where right and wrong issues are addressed here. Corporate ethics relates to choice and judgment regarding acceptable behavior that guide how an individual and groups will act in the future. Business decisions could be both acceptable and beneficial to society. The most basic standards of corporate ethics have been codified as law and regulation to encourage companies to conform the society's expectation of business conduct. Next, there are various features of corporate ethics such as code of conduct, voluntary, provides basis framework, and many more. We will focus on two features which are code of conduct and give protection to social groups. First, code of conduct advises what to do and what not to do for the good of society. For instance, Apple provides supplier code of conduct in their website. Plus, they also release a report regarding their supplier's performance. The public can see and observe whether Apple complied with their code of conduct. If Apple does not comply with code of conduct, they could voice out their opinion and make a report to the authorities. Next is provide protection to social groups. Company needs to concern and provide protection to diverse groups such as employee and customers. For example, illegal mining issue in Indonesia cause environmental destruction and affect the fishermen near to the mining site. Every party that affected will be protected by Apple by. In answering question 3, yes, we do agree that consumers should alert and aware any brands that made a bad ethical track record. Consumers should know justice and fairness elements are everywhere, especially when it involves violation of law and human rights. Issues arise in Apple such as child labor and unsafe working conditions for the employees reflects the brand management. We ought to look at humanity perspective. Ask yourself, behind the product was made by a child that aged like our younger siblings. How is it possible for us to buy the product? It is wrong to support brands that do not comply with corporate ethics. It is like we are encouraging their unethical behavior. In addition, customers will hold a boycott campaign towards a company that has been caught because has an unethical issue. As a consumer, the consumer will weigh the benefits of product that they wanted to buy and company's value of the product. We take the case of Nestle. The issue of baby formula scandal causes few countries started a boycott campaign to Nestle such as United States, Norway, France, and many more. Nestle advertises infant formula to be better than breast milk and more convenient to use. The authorities find out Nestle often ignores its own nutritional advice in its advertising. Moreover, the way Nestle highlights the advertisement can mislead the parents, especially to first-time parents. Thus, this behavior is unethical when it comes to the health of vulnerable babies. They also gave out free samples of their baby formula products to the hospital. For the event of distribution baby formula samples, there were 6 babies died and 180 babies were hospitalized due to kidney problem. The company exploiting uneducated mothers at third world countries by recommending that mothers can begin to wean their baby out of breast milk for 6 months, saying that it can make the baby anemic if it's not done. The World Health Organization (WHO) against their statement. Nestle being critiqued for using malevolent marketing strategy. Nestle took several years to change its policy. Since Apple had unethical issues involving their supply chain, it needs to do a damage control to clear bad ethical track records. The louder the conversation gets, the more negative sentiment toward their brand will spread to other people in their target market. They must improve a positive reputation to convince their customers. Next, align the customer service team to respond and take actions like refund and warranty to unsatisfied customers. And excellent customer service and making customers feel heard, Apple could minimize their negative publicity. That is why some companies implement survey towards their customers to obtain feedback about their brands. Apple also could seize opportunity for improvement. If a company know they had an ethical issue that caused their customers to turn away from their brands, try to tackle the issues wisely. In summary, consumers need to look out at the company's ethical track record before proceeding any purchasing of their products. The customers should avoid buying from companies that raise unpleasant issues. To question 4, can you think of other products or brands that rely on ethically questionable business practices? Do you think consumers are turned off by their track record? Are they largely indifferent to it? Explain. People do have moral values, that is, they accept standards according to which their conduct is judged as either right or wrong. Religious morality comes from human relationship with God. For example, in Islam we have Allah, and in Christian they have Jesus. Violating God's commandments considered as immoral with the God. Islam teaches us to treat well the animals, even with animals that are dangerous to us and forbidden to touch in Islam. Sources such as the Holy Quran, Hadith, and history of human civilization told us about how to not abuse the animals. And the earth He has assigned it to all living creatures. From Surah Yunus is an example of guidance for people to take care of all living creatures, including plants and animals. Plus, Islam also rules down rule for human slaughter. Besides morality, nature is relationship between human and nature. Nature is valuable in our life because they give us benefits in many ways. Humans are responsible to see nature as a good in itself. Violating animal rights like deprive their freedom and rights to live are wrong, as the animals are natural beings. Therefore, humans should feel responsible to protect the animals in danger. Animal testing products arise with unethical issue, which is deprive animals' rights. Animal testing are used to develop new medical products, human health and environmental protection, monitoring of consumer and industrial products such as cosmetic and household cleaners. Poisoning, shocking, burning, and killing animals are what the researchers did to the animals. For instance, they will force the mice and rats to inhale toxic fumes, force feeding dogs pesticides, and dripping corrosive chemicals into rabbits' sensitive eyes. It is kind of brutal to torture a living creature. The animals are languid in pain, suffer from intense frustration, isolation, and long to be free because they are confined to the barren cage. Besides, the animals started to develop neurotic types of behaviors such as keep spinning in circles, rocking back and forth, and even biting themselves. These are some big brands that tested on animals. Of course, there are solutions that the consumers and the parties involved could do. Firstly, the consumers can buy cruelty-free products instead. There are many brands out there that comply with morality, such as the Body Shop and Too Faced Cosmetic. There is an alternative form using an animal testing, which is using a simple organism like bacteria, tissues, and cells from humans, computer models, or chemical methods. These scientifically advanced tests are often quicker, cheaper, and more reliable than the cruel and unnecessary animal tests. This has been suggested by former National Cancer Institute Director Dr. Richard Klausner. We have been curing cancer mice for decades and just doesn't work in humans. Our group chose a study conducted towards customers that bought brands that are tested on animals. The study titled Consumer Attitudes Toward Animal Testing Used in Cosmetic, a case of MAC Cosmetic and Maybelline banned in 2019. This research was to discover if there is a trend in demographic factors in consumers' attitude and intention to buy or not buy animal-tested products. From the research, male and female participants buy the products due to widely sell, easy to get, affordable price, and peer pressure from friends and family members. Some of female participants who were unaware that the brands MAC and Maybelline tested on animals but had bought these items before began to feel bad by saying like, "Oh, actually that's bad." While those who already oppose or have adverse attitude towards animal testing would not support or buy from those cosmetic brands. Many of the participants started to feel turned off due to this unethical issue, and awareness about animal testing among them was extremely low. Moreover, the participants responded that they would switch the product into non-animal testing products and hoping their friends and family also join into the bandwagon. In conclusion, the unethical issues has a positive relationship that could influence the customer intention to buy a product. The company must be careful in conducting their business activities as when the bad issues happen to them, it could make the consumers turn off.
Assalamualaikum to Safaiz. My name is Nur Karunisa binti Roslan. So continue to our presentation, which is question 5. Well, knowing that a product was produced under ethically questionable condition affect your decision to purchase. Explain with the example. So, from our discussion, we conclude that yes, well, knowing that product was produced under ethically questionable condition will always affect our decision, because as a consumer, majority will lose trust and interest to consume any product that does not fulfill the right ethical in production their product. Consumer will always ensure that the product used from the healthy ingredients and does not harmful for themselves before consume any product. So, this matter can be proven by a case related to Coca-Cola company. So we look in here. As we know that Coca-Cola was founded in 1886, where the Coca-Cola company is the world's largest beverage company. So, being the world's largest beverages company, Coca-Cola also produce other beverages such as Dasani water, Powerade, Minute Maid, and other beverages. So, as we know that they are the biggest, largest beverage company in this world. However, Coca-Cola has been accused of unethical behavior in number of areas, including product safety, anti-competitiveness, racial discrimination, channel stuffing, distributor conflict, intimidation of union workers, pollution, depletion of natural resources, and also health concerns. Perhaps the most damaging of Coca-Cola crisis, and a situation decaded by every company, began in June 1999 when about 30 billion children become ill after consuming cooked product. Although the company issued an isolated product recall, the major issue is actually Coca-Cola company have improperly processed batch of carbon dioxide that leads to many cases such as of food poisoners and also health concerns. Despite the crucial cases, Coca-Cola was slow to respond into this issue. Taking several days to address the media, the company has initially judged the problem to be minor and did not immediately investigate to the extent of the issue. This low response time to lead to a public relation nightmare. So, France also reported that more than 100 people sick from the bad Coke and temporarily banned all the product. Arrived in Poland contaminated with mold. In each of the instances, the company's slow response and failure to acknowledge the severity of this situation harm its reputation and cast double on the CEO investor. The contamination crisis was exacerbated in December 1999 when Belgium ordered Coca-Cola to restore marketing campaign it had launched in order to regain consumer trust and sales in the Belgium. A rival firm claimed that the campaign strategy, which include free cases of the product, discount to the wholesaler and reseller, and extra promotion personnel, was unlawful. The claim was upheld under Belgium's strict antitrust law, and Coca-Cola was forced to abandon the campaign. This decision, following the previous crisis, further reduced the Coca-Cola market standing in Europe. Hence, because of unethical production made by Coca-Cola have made consumers purchase less of their product, because it might be harmful for them if the company does not respond to this crisis and using an ethical way to produce the Coca-Cola. As we can see from the statistic in 2000, Coca-Cola failed to make the top 10 of Fortune annual America Most Admired Company list for the first time in the 10 years. In 2001, the company disappeared from the top 100 of Business Ethics magazine annual list of 100 best corporate citizens. For a company that have been both lists for years, this was disappointing but not expected given its recent ethical crisis. Hence, the solution to bounce back their reputation, stakeholder management need to take a fast response toward this matter, not only for their customer, but also involving in the market and economic aspect of organization. They also need to gain back their trust from their consumer and show them the responsibility towards their product before given to consumer. Not only focus on marketing, but the production itself need to ensure the safety in producing and delivering to their customer. As we know, the crisis management is the process of handling high-impact event which stakeholders need a quick response with information about how the company plans to resolve this crisis as well as what they can do to mitigate negative effect for themselves. It is also necessary to communicate specific issue to stakeholder group, including remorse of the event, guideline, and how the organization is going to address for the crisis criteria and regarding how stakeholder group will be compensated for negative effect. As we can see, consumer will always look for the good feedback because before consume any product, we also frequently will look to the review of the given by a customer before buying any product, such as Shopee. We also will look into the feedback review, what the previous customer said about the product before we consume it. So this is to ensure that the feedback given to the consumer will help them before using the products. Same as Coca-Cola, whenever people lose trust, they will start turn off on their product and looking for something better. So everyone need to ensure that the product will always be in ethical behavior so that they are given back their trust and loyalty toward their products. So, moving on to the next question. If you were part of third-party regulating body, how will you deal with ethically questionable business practice of multinational corporation like Apple? Will you feel obligated to do something, or do you think the solution rests with the company themselves? Explain your reasoning. So, one way to deal with ethically questionable business practice of multinational corporation by the third-party regulating body is that regulators should publish their enforcement of policies and strategies. Okay, this is to ensure that all the parties involved are well known about the policies and strategies made by the company. As a consumer, they also feel secure and trust when the company have proper regulatory before consuming any product. For example, Apple have launched a product iPhone that is water resistant, is not waterproof, but most of them understand that product can be used as it is waterproof. Apple countered that it is only water resistant and have limit for the depth of water that iPhone can be used since it is not waterproof. It only can tolerate a little amount of water. Thus, as a third-party regulating body that involved as part of their product, they need to educate their customer about the difference between waterproof and water-resistant product. This will help them to be more cautious when they understand about the regulatory and policies. Because of this issue, many vendors of Apple product have been questioned with numbers about this issue as they thought that iPhone that they bought can be used in the water. However, Apple have explained that this issue was state only water resistant and not a waterproof for their product. Moreover, corporate social responsibility is referred by a various names such as sustainability, corporate citizenship, corporate responsibility, environmental, social and governance, and triple bottom line. This should be considered as whoever that need to take part for the product. These parties are involved in ensure that the current and future impact on business operation, purchasing and sales of the product and services on. So they need to ensure that from E to Z, the production is under their control. So, every demand of the customer is depend on how they control this issue. Hence, not only the company itself to solve this issue, but rather everyone that involved from the production, manufacturing, vendor, and all parties to product until the reach of the hand of the consumer. Finally, we conclude that the ethical principle and corporate ethics serve as critical weapon in the high-tech world of competitiveness and globalization to eradicate unethical activities and numerous scandals that arise frequently. Such activities are slipping into general way of life that are likely to prove damaging to our social life. In order to make our customer and consumer happy, this is a great need to educate staff, manager, executive, CEOs, MDs, and even owner of the business organization about ethical principle and business ethics, along with technical and corporate training, contributing to business sustenance and survival in today's globalized world are really needs. So that's all from me. Thank you.
There are times we go up and down. Same goes to Apple. Some Apple's unethical issues had been solved and some are not solved yet. We could say that from a loss of Apple's unethical issue, whereas supply chain has strengthened the point of urgency to increase the standards of corporate ethics. Exposure of unethical issue scenario to the surrounding communities and competitors would damage its brand name. The company should respond to those issues with a right ethical foundation. Besides, all parties involved with Apple's supply chain should take part to ensure the quality of Apple products match with the demand of consumer. Therefore, Apple must adhere with their law, their code of conduct and ethics to ensure the minimization of unethical issues in the future.
With that, it is all from us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.